Hello, I'm Peter Hollers, and during this election year, the candidate to whom I feel most connected is Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders looks like your everyday grandpa, your very square grandpa. He is not slick or prepackaged. He is not a celebrity candidate. He does not make the news every night by insulting his opponents or saying outrageous things. Bernie does not change with the changing winds of public approval. He is always the same Bernie. He has integrity, he is consistent, he is a man of ideas, and I want to talk to you today about 3 important problems that Bernie Sanders would look to tackle if he is elected President of the United States. Problem number 1, big money's hold on our political system. At the end of the Gettysburg Address, Abraham Lincoln said that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. As a first-time voter, I'd like to believe that my voice can be heard. I want to believe that our government remains a democracy that represents all the people and not just the powerful corporations and the super wealthy. Unfortunately, this is not really how it works in our political system today. Sure, each citizen has a vote, but the unlimited flow of money into political campaigns from corporations and the very wealthy is determining who can and cannot be elected. And once elected, those people who are supposed to be our representatives are beholden to the special interests and big donors who made sure they got there. It's not surprising then that instead of promoting policies to improve the lives of ordinary American citizens, these politicians are more interested in serving their wealthy masters. This problem has gotten a lot worse since the Supreme Court issued its 5-4 decision in Citizens United 6 years ago. That decision hinges on the notion that the money that finances campaigns is speech protected by the First Amendment. That decision also says that corporations are people whose speech rights are protected. Super PACs, an outgrowth of Citizens United decision, are allowing the wealthiest people and the largest corporations to contribute unlimited amounts of money to campaigns. The Koch brothers, the second wealthiest family in America, have made it public that their network intend to spend at least $750 million in this election through financial contributions and super PACs. That is more than either the Democratic or the Republican Party. If something is not done soon to lessen the influence of big money in our political system, we may no longer be able to call our government a representative democracy. We may just be an oligarchy of governments run by the super rich. Bernie has several ideas about how we can lessen the influence of big money in our political system. Bernie Sanders proposes that overturning the Supreme Court's Citizens United decision through a constitutional amendment. This amendment would make it clear that Congress and the states have the power to regulate money in elections. He also pledges that as president, he would only nominate Supreme Court justices who will make it a priority to overturn citizens. Bernie would fight for a publicly financed, transparent system of campaign financing that amplifies small donations of individual citizens. He proposes a public financing system for presidential elections. He would propose legislative action to require complete disclosure of funding of campaigns so that we can really see where the money's going. Bernie Sanders would fight to eliminate PACs and super PACs. He would aggressively enforce campaign finance rules, work to strengthen voting rights by expanding early voting and voting by mail, implementing automatic voter registration, and ending gerrymandering of districts, and making Election Day a national. I think that Bernie understands the problem and is ready to take action to lessen the influence of big money in our political system so that this can really be a government of, by, and for the people. Problem number 2, combating climate change. Climate change is probably the single greatest problem facing our planet. I don't think we can just stick our heads in the sand anymore about this. There's no real scientific debate. 97% of scientists agree that global climate change is real and that it is caused by human activity, mainly from emissions from burning fossil fuels. Why do I care? It's pretty simple. If we do nothing, the planet will likely heat up 5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit by the end of this century. That would cause enough sea level rise to put cities like New York, Miami, and New Orleans underwater, along with other heavily populated cities around the world. Scientists also predict that climate change will cause more frequent hurricanes, drought, greater respiratory problems, higher food prices, and insufficient drinking water. Because of these many effects, climate change can also destabilize regions of the world and affect our national security. That doesn't sound like a very rosy future for our planet if you ask me. I also care about this issue because scientists are saying that the window for slowing climate change is closing. That's why the nations of the world have been meeting for climate talks aimed at limiting carbon dioxide emissions. Essentially, they are trying to take some action to help make sure that future generations have a planet that we can live on. That's a big problem, probably bigger than any one candidate or any one nation. But we shouldn't be overwhelmed and paralyzed by the scope of the problem. Bernie's position is pretty clear. Politicians have to look at the science and stop denying the fact of climate change. If they want to let politics and links to the fossil fuel industry trump common sense, the American people need to recognize what these politicians are about. He wants to work toward a 100% clean energy system and transition away from burning fossil fuels for power and transportation. He wants to invest in advanced renewable fuels. He wants to invest in solar energy, which is becoming less expensive by the day. He plans to invest in making our homes and workplaces more energy efficient. Bernie also proposes to invest in affordable energy storage solutions for clean energy technologies like solar and wind. We need a way to store energy from these sources cheaply and effectively, since the sun is not shining and the wind is not always blowing. He wants to build geothermal power plants. He looks to invest in utility-scale clean energy generation. He plans to provide global clean energy funding to developing nations. Bernie looks to invest in high-speed passenger and cargo rail. Lastly, he wants to invest in electric and vehicle charging stations. You may say, and I would agree, that these proposals only chip away at a huge problem. I wonder also how we could pay for all this investment. I think it would take a major shift in priorities and commitment of resources to make these policies a reality. But we have to recognize the problem and start solving. Number 3, the high cost of college and skyrocketing student debt. Here's another problem that most people my age and their parents are worried about: the high cost of college and crippling student debt. The problem goes beyond financial stress of sending a kid or two to college. The problem goes beyond looking at that large bill and trying to figure out how my parents and I can meet the expense. That's bad enough. Most middle-class families cannot send a child through college without running up some debt. Student debt that weighs the young person down and makes it hard for them to move out, live independently, buy a home, or even start a family. This also is a problem for our larger economy. People are not buying homes until much later in life, and this has a far-reaching effect on the economy of our country. Also, if tuition becomes too expensive, we will not be able to offer the educated workforce needed for growing an advanced economy. I believe higher education should be attainable for all those interested in pursuing it, and people should be able to get their education and start in life without a huge burden of debt. Bernie has several sweeping proposals to meet these challenges. First, tuition should be free at all public colleges and universities. This may sound too good to be true, but maybe it's not such a radical idea. Germany, Chile, Finland, Norway, and Sweden all offer free college to their citizens. Also under Bernie's plan, the federal government will stop taking a profit from student loans. Over the next decade, it is estimated that the federal government will make over $110 billion on student loan programs alone. Sanders would use this money to try to lower student loan interest rates. He looks to cut student loan rates from 4.29% to 2.37%. Bernie would also let Americans refinance student loans. A lot of college graduates are paying interest rates at 5 to 7% on their student loans over decades. It doesn't make any sense to prohibit refinancing student loans when you can get a car loan now for 2.5%. He would require public colleges and universities to meet 100% of the financial needs of the lowest income students. Sanders would also triple the federal work-study program. Sanders says he will be able to pay for all this by imposing a tax of a fraction of a cent on Wall Street speculators. More than 1,000 economists have endorsed a tax on Wall Street. Britain, Germany, France, Switzerland, and China all have a similar tax. You may not agree with my choice of Bernie to be the next president, and you may not agree with Bernie's position on these issues, but they are important issues facing our nation. Bernie, without a doubt, has brought these issues to the forefront, and they deserve our attention. Regardless of your choice for president, do not fail to vote. As John Quincy Adams, the 6th President of the United States, once said, "Always vote on principle, though you may vote alone." As I leave you with this. To the burn!